Talking Giants YouTube, hello. It's very clear and apparent that I need a haircut. My hair grows like an afro. It doesn't grow like down, it grows out, and it grows like a chia pet. And also, Rutgers football's back. Rutgers football is back. So we're going to talk about Rutgers football today. No, we're going to talk Giants. It's kind of like what we do. We have a very important topic at hand today, and you can see by the title of the video, the Giants need to reduce Evan Engram's snaps, or the snaps of Evan Engram. That is the topic we have today. It is a topic that I haven't enjoyed talking about, but there's also a lot of data that's behind why the Giants should really start to limit the snaps. It's not just, this little thought that Caden Smith maybe deserves more reps, or, Evan Engram is not a natural tight end. There's a lot of clear data as to why Evan Engram is just not working fully with Daniel Jones, but especially with this Jason Garrett offense. So this video is not the purposes of benching. I thought about going back and forth on titling this video and this article that I wrote about why the Giants should bench Evan Engram, but I eventually wound up with the Giants should limit his snaps. Benching would be the clickbait way to go about things, but that's not what we're about over at Talking Giants. We're not just about clickbait. So I actually wrote this whole topic, and I talked about this topic over on TalkingGiants.com. The YouTube crowd, partially what you've been missing out is if you like to read, and if you like to see things other than video, if you like to see things visually with the written word, you can go over to TalkingGiants.com, and every single week, Danny King and myself, we are writing blogs. Danny King is writing some reaction blogs. I write Talking Analytics. Plus, I keep track of some pass rusher stats. So go to TalkingGiants.com and see some of the work that we have there, and keep subscribed. Keep checking the website every couple days to see and make sure that you don't miss anything on there. But let's talk about Evan Engram, and let's basically talk about the article that I wrote, except now I'm going to do it in video form. When Daniel Jones has targeted Evan Engram in 2020, it has done more harm than it has done good. The Giants' offense has 13 turnovers in total this year, and Evan Engram has been directly involved with 5 of them. For those at home, that's 38% of the Giants' offensive turnovers directly involving Evan Engram. He's been targeted on 4 of Jones' 7 interceptions. He was also partially to blame for a fumble that is put on Daniel Jones in the box score, and that was against San Francisco, that fumble was. And even some people on Twitter have pointed out that there probably have been some missed Evan Engram blocks on pass protection that has directly led to a Daniel Jones fumble. So I'm not even including that. Now, a number that I do include in turnovers in my brain, now this is important to say that this is in my brain, that I kind of count when I'm evaluating players, 3rd and 4th down drops as turnovers. Because what do 3rd and 4th down drops do? They directly result in a change of possession, especially 4th down drops. So Evan Engram, his 3rd down drop on 3rd and 6 against Philadelphia Thursday Night Football, that directly led to a change of possession. So I'm also counting that as an Evan Engram turnover. So basically, we have 6 turnovers that are directly involving Evan Engram. 1 drop, 4 interceptions, and then 1 fumble that's technically put on Daniel Jones in the box score, but you can say Evan Engram got 2 hands on it. He's directly responsible. So there's some advanced analytics that say, and I'm typically referring to EPA, which EPA is basically looking at how is an individual player's performance contributing to putting points on the board. And since Evan Engram has been involved in so many turnovers, he is historically bad when it comes to his EPA and his expected points added that he is putting on the board. He's almost down to minus 15 for the entire season when he has around 45 targets on the season. And you can see the graph that I probably have on the screen right now. That is so bad. It is historically bad. And then to make numbers a little bit more simpler, because quarterback rating is a lot more simpler, entering Thursday Night Football, Daniel Jones had a 35.1 passer rating when targeting Evan Engram, which was the worst for any receiver with 20-plus targets. That is bad. And that's the quarterback rating that's out of 158.3, not the quarterback rating like ESPN QBR or Football Outsiders, where it's basically tougher to get a high score because it's out of only 100. The 158.3 quarterback rating, it's typically easier to get close and above 190, etc., etc. And that's where you want to be. Evan Engram in years past has had a 114 rating in 2018 with his quarterbacks. He's had a 99.3 in 2019. So this isn't out of the question. This is just so historically bad where it is not just at the point where the Giants are not utilizing Evan Engram correctly. We are no longer at that point. We are at the point where Evan Engram's performance and force-feeding the ball Evan Engram is 100% hurting the team, and it's hurting the development of the offense. If Daniel Jones is going to have any hope in New York, and if this 2020 season is going to have any glimmer of hope, it is clear at this point we have enough of a sample size. It has been 7 games. If this team has any hope, if Daniel Jones has any hope in New York, they have to stop force-feeding Evan Engram the ball and stop giving him 80, 90% of the snaps. His snap count has actually gone down to around the low 80s the last couple games. Caden Smith showed enough in 2019, and he showed enough of a connection with Daniel Jones to get more snaps. And the coaching staff, they have to be looking at these numbers. They have to be looking at the stats. They're obviously looking at the film, and the film tells you that obviously there's more to be desired. There's more to be desired. There's more that's left on the table with Evan Engram because he has all the potential in the world. But the numbers are telling you, and they have to be screaming, this guy is costing you. And it's not necessarily because of Jones. Yes, Jones has made some bad reads, and it's not necessarily just because of Engram, but it's just the correlation of force-feeding Evan Engram the ball is leading to bad things. Doesn't have to be one person's fault or the other. It's also a lot of Garrett for not utilizing him correctly, yes. But at this point, if we are not going to change the way that we use Evan Engram, we need to limit his snaps. That's just where we are at. So, where I kind of want to go to next is continuing this conversation of how Evan Engram is used and, the scheme that he finds himself in. So that conversation has been so overblown, and I kind of don't want to revisit it. But what I revisited in the blog that I wrote about Engram on my Deep Dive Opinion blog was the relationship between Daniel Jones and Evan Engram and Eli Manning and Evan Engram. That's not something that has been explored a ton. Now, Eli Manning has gotten a lot of flack and a lot of hate towards the latter end of his career, and myself included. I have been one of these people. He's gotten a lot of flack towards the latter end of his career for being checked down Charlie. However, if we're only talking about Eli Manning and Evan Engram and their effectiveness versus Evan Engram and Daniel Jones' effectiveness, in 2018, and both years were under Pat Shurmur, 2018 and 2019, Engram's yards per reception numbers were more than 2 yards greater in 2018 than in 2019. His catch rate was 5% better in 2018 versus 2019. And that's impressive since typically a greater yards per reception is equaling you are less likely to have a greater catch percentage since typically you were being targeted deep down the field. But that was not the case for Evan Engram in 2018. His catch percentage and his yards per reception were both greater than 2019 where the majority of the season was with Daniel Jones. And most importantly, this is where the whole conversation is manifested with how Evan Engram is used in space. How can we get Evan Engram in space, whether it's with the rushing attempts, the screens, down the seam, the sideline, whatever. This is the most important stat in terms of evaluating Evan Engram, especially with his relationship with Eli Manning and Daniel Jones. In 2018, Evan Engram's yards after the catch per reception was 8.6 yards. That's pretty darn impressive. Very, very impressive. But in 2019, there was a dramatic drop-off and drop down to 5.7 yards per reception. That's almost a 3-yard difference right there. 3 yards after the catch per reception. What Evan Engram is known for, or what he's famous for, what he should be famous for, is what he can do with the ball in his hands after the catch. And it just so turns out that Eli Manning was the best quarterback in Pat Shurmur's system. Eli Manning was the best quarterback to get that potential out of Evan Engram compared to Daniel Jones. So for whatever reason, Daniel Jones does not have a great connection and great chemistry with Evan Engram. And it's definitely manifested itself more in 2020 than it did in 2019. Because even if you look at that 4-game stretch that Evan Engram had to start the season in 2019, where he went at an absolutely bananas catch rate, yards rate, he was scoring touchdowns. Think back to that big Tampa Bay game that he had where he scored like a 70-yard touchdown to start the second half. 2 of those games, the first 2 games last year, they were with Eli Manning. And then the other 2 were with Daniel Jones. So it wasn't even like Daniel Jones had all of those 4 games where he was successful with Evan Engram. 2 of them were with Eli Manning anyway. So football is such a nuanced sport. Football is such a nuanced sport where because one player is not playing well or because one player is not fitting in a certain system, it's not because, oh, Daniel Jones is terrible. It's not, oh, Evan Engram's terrible. And it's not, oh, Jason Garrett's terrible. All of those things could be combining in this one little cluster of a bad situation that is the 2020 Giants. But this is such a nuanced conversation of how Evan Engram fits and how he doesn't fit with this team and why there may be a disconnect between him and Daniel Jones. It's such a nuanced and complicated conversation where the point of me making this video isn't to solely crap on Evan Engram. But the point of this video is to solely not to crap on Jones or Garrett, even though I am very, very frustrated with Garrett probably out of everybody on the football team right now because of how conservative his scheme is. If it's not one thing or it's the other. We saw against the Philadelphia Eagles that Jason Garrett was utilizing Engram correctly. He was utilizing him on the sideline. He was utilizing him on the seam. That beautiful drop that Evan Engram had was a seam route going down the sideline, and it was a beautiful route. It was a beautiful execution, and it was an even better throw, and Evan Engram just dropped it. So if it's not the injuries, it's the inconsistent performance that Evan Engram has showed this year, and particularly against Philadelphia, where he dropped a ball and it directly led to an interception, and then he dropped a 3rd down pass which would have sealed the game, which therefore directly resulted in virtually another turnover. So that's my argument as to why the snap share and the snap count needs to be reduced for Evan Engram for the sake of Daniel Jones, for the sake of his future in New York, if he has any past 2020, for the sake of whatever is left of this season. It is clear that force-feeding him the ball is only resulting in negative plays. Negative plays that change the entire complexion of the game. Is Caden Smith going to be better? I don't know. I think Caden Smith and Daniel Jones showed a little bit more of a connection, a little bit more chemistry while they were together. I think Caden Smith is more of a pure tight end rather than Evan Engram is an athlete and he can be a Swiss Army knife. Don't think Evan Engram deserves to be having 80% of the snaps, especially when you consider his blocking limitations. I think Caden Smith deserves more snaps. Levine Toilolo may deserve more snaps because they're both more pure of a tight end. If Golden Tate is going to be traded, then you're talking about Evan Engram getting reps at wide receiver, and I'm fine with that. But it's all about utilizing Evan Engram in a way that is not going to be force-feeding him the ball, lining up from directly the tight end spot. So that's it. That's the video. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Am I a stupid idiot? Am I right? Do you agree with me? Should the Giants trade Evan Engram? Because there's been reports of the Giants do not want to trade Evan Engram. They still believe in the talent, and they still believe it can work in East Rutherford, especially because they have the 5th-year option, and the 5th-year option does go to 2021. So if there is a year to trade him, maybe they view it as next year. So do you think they should trade him? Is there any hope left for Evan Engram? Let me know. Thanks for watching. Peace. We'll see you soon.